what could go wrong when you're not using the validated workflow?
Cytotoxicity, the first thing, right?
That's the first. So what happens? Let's just break it down.
Well, it cause damage to the pulp of the tooth, to the odontoblast. You could cause damage to the gum tissue, allergic reactions because you have uncured monomers just kind of floating around in there. I mean, that's like the underpinning, right? Like you don't even have safety validated, throw the mechanical properties out the window. If you're not using a validated workflow, you don't even know what you're putting in your patient's mouth is safe. Like that's just a no-brainer for me.
For me, it also involves understanding the fact that from my background in chemical science is that resins are really built from the ground up to work with a certain wavelength of light and a certain energy level. And when you step outside those kind of comfort zones of what the resin was built for, you start to impact things like the mechanical properties, and how brittle the resin may be or tough it might be after curing. So, I always give this scenario in my class, and this is a real scenario that I think is going to happen at some point, where let's say you did an All-on-X prosthetic, you placed, let's just say 6 implants, and then you printed one of these All-on-X prosthetics using some gumball printer. I joke and I call them these, but they're it's not that they're all bad printers. It's just that we need data behind them. Well, let's say you print a All-on-X prosthetic using this. And let's say that prosthetic fractures at the 4-day point and the patient's not able to get to you immediately for whatever reason, and those implants fail because of the movement of the prosthesis as it's fractured. And those implants fail, and they fail kind of catastrophically. And now the patient's at square zero, but now maybe it's not such an easy story to place the implants back.
Mm-hmm.
I could just picture being in court, and the lawyer's like, "So, doctor, how did you fabricate this prosthetic that broke?" And they're like, "Well, I booted up my and Anycubic photon, and I popped some of this resin in there, and I cured it in my little cure box." And they're like, "Well, is that a FDA cleared workflow?" And like, when you start to operate outside the realm of what's been tested, you're all alone. And dentistry is already a very lonely profession. And it might not be that prosthetic fractured due to using one of these printers. It might have just been patient was, whatever factor. It might have nothing to do with that, but I think it's going to be very hard to prove in court that it was because you didn't use validated workflows, right? It's not that we get some prosthetic fractures using even validated workflows sometimes, every now and then, but I know that I've done everything right. And that if something breaks, I start to look at occlusion and other things besides my printer and things like that. Thickness, material thickness, and properties like that.